Trouble hearing in noisy places? Missing what's said? It's time to catch the conversation with Dot Squared by ReSound, an exclusive hearing instrument that helps you enjoy more detailed sounds in every setting. With its premium technology platform, Dot Squared by ReSound automatically adjusts focus on the important sounds, like conversations with family and friends. Now that's something to talk about. Dot Squared by ReSound is exclusively available at Cather's Optical and Hearing Center, 19 South Highland in Chanute, Kansas. See our ad in names and numbers.
Hello, this is Martha McCoy, and I'm about town. And you know what I have today? I have a special guest, and we're going to do a cooking show. And I'd like for you to welcome Sharon Kelly.
Hello.
Welcome. I'm glad to have you here today. And Sharon is going to show us a wonderful recipe today, and we're hoping that you'll want to make it too. So if you want to run and get a pencil and some paper and be ready to jot all this down, you know, we'll let you catch up. So what are we going to do today?
Well, today, Martha, we're going to make a caramel apple bread pudding with a homemade caramel sauce and a hot caramel spice cider to drink.
Oh, that sounds luscious. Wonderful. Okay, what are we going to make first?
Okay, first we're going to make the pudding because it has to sit for an hour in the fridge so that the bread will soak up all of the custard. And then it has to bake an hour. So while all of those things are going on, we will make the caramel sauce and the cider and have a few sips before it's done.
Sounds good to me. Okay.
The first thing we need to do is butter a 9 by 13 pan with 2 tablespoons of butter and preheat your oven to 325 degrees for a glass pan or 350 for a dark pan.
You do that very well. I always get it all over my fingers when I do that.
Well, if you leave the end of the wrapper on the butter,
Oh, that would help. Okay.
it helps a great deal.
Okay.
Okay, then in a large mixing bowl, you cube 6 cups of cinnamon raisin bread or cinnamon bread if you don't care for raisins, or even just plain French bread will work, but not quite as much flavor. If the bread is dried out a little, or even a day old or stale, it works better because that way the bread will soak all the custard. So you cube that, put it in a large bowl. Then in a smaller bowl, you mix 4 large eggs. And Martha, if you'll help me with this a little bit, we will get it done a little quicker.
There we go.
And we'll take a whisk and we'll beat them just a little bit. I might add that the majority of the ingredients, the expensive ingredients, the cream, the butter, can all be reused in this recipe because you're going to use them first in the bread pudding, and then you'll use it in the caramel sauce, and then you'll use them again in the hot cider. So you won't be spending a lot of money for cream that you're only going to use one time. So you'll be actually using it 3 times.
Good idea.
And it's the holiday season, so it's time to have a few calories. So we're
Yes.
not going to worry about those today.
Yes. No, we're not going to worry about calories today.
Then we need 3 cups of heavy cream or whipping cream.
Okay, I'll go get it.
And 1 cup of apple cider.
Okay.
And you just pour this all right into the eggs.
Well, you don't see cream like that anymore.
Not very often.
Need this open?
No. We'll be
Okay.
fine. Whoops, thank you.
I'll take care of that.
And then again, you just whisk it all together. Then we're going to add a cup of light brown sugar mixed with 1/4 cup of white sugar. And I've already pre-measured that. There it is. And along to that sugar, we'll add 2 tablespoons of melted butter.
Let me stir.
Please. Get all those lumps out. We don't want any lumpy
I'll try.
custard.
I'll try. I'll trade you.
And add 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. If I'm at home, I don't measure this, so you all do whatever you feel comfortable doing.
After you do a recipe several times, you just know
Yes,
how much
yes.
to put in.
Then we're going to add a cup of dried apples, and you can buy these at any grocery store, or if you have your own from an orchard and you've dried them during the summer. I do cut them in little pieces.
Oh.
So they look kind of spongy, but they turn out just fine after they soak that custard up. And 1 Granny Smith apple. If you don't like a tartness to your apple, you can use a Rome apple or whatever apple you have on hand.
Okay.
Just make it easy on yourself. And chop it fairly small.
Okay, now back up here on the apples. You had, what kind was the first?
That was dried apples.
Dried apples, okay, and then you had a Granny Smith.
And then I had a Granny Smith.
Okay.
And I have chopped the dried apples into little pieces, and I also chopped the Granny Smith, peeled and chopped.
Okay, so they're peeled.
They are peeled.
Okay.
And then you take this custard mixture and pour it right on top of the bread.
And it's soaking it up.
It's very rich.
Mm-hmm.
Now comes the fun part, Martha.
Oh, boy.
I have
Are we gonna use our hands?
We are. I have a cup of pecans that I've toasted, and the way to do that is just put them in a dry skillet and toast them on a low heat. It just takes a few minutes, and as soon as you feel the nuts and smell the nuts starting to get warm, and the nuts will release the oil as they're toasted, and you'll be able to smell them. And just add the cup of nuts right into the bread pudding. And then we take the best tools God gave us
Our
and
hands.
mix away.
Okay. Oh, this is fun.
And this is a good project for the kids to help you
Oh,
with,
they would
too.
love this. The grandkids would get right into this.
And it'll still look a little bit soupy,
Mhm.
but we're going to pour it into the pan
Okay.
and let it refrigerate for about an hour so that the bread soaks up all of that custard.
Now, do you squash it down, or do you just let it kind of just...
I just spread it out
Spread it out.
evenly. As it bakes, the pudding will puff up some, and
Okay.
it will usually even out.
Okay.
So into the fridge it goes. And Martha, your hands are clean.
Yes.
So, thank you. And in about an hour, we'll take that out and bake that pudding. And while that is all taking place, we'll clean up the first mess and start on the second. My son's favorite thing in the world is caramel. So I have worked very hard to come up with caramel recipes that are easy and keep well and they're just not difficult, because caramel is sometimes kind of scary. So this was the easiest recipe that I could find, and I've made 3 different recipes this week, and he vetoed 2 and said, keep this one. So, so in this, it needs to be a heavy saucepan, and as you can tell,
Oh, yes,
it's a pretty
definitely.
heavy pan. And this is about a 2.5 or 3-quart saucepan.
What are you needing here?
The spatula, please. And into this pan, we'll put 1 cup of brown sugar, the light brown sugar, and 1 stick of real butter. and stir it together well, and then turn on the heat to medium. And you don't need to stir it all the time, but you do want to keep the sides of the pan scraped down so the sugar in the pan doesn't crystallize. And you want to cook it just until the sugar is all melted. And that'll just take a couple of minutes, Martha.
Right. It smells really good. Oh,
Then after the sugar is melted, we'll take it from the heat. And again, if you'll hand me that cream, we will carefully pour in the cream because it will tend to bubble and kind of fizz up a little bit. So we'll pour in a half a cup of the cream and then return it back to the heat while stirring and bring it back to a boil, which doesn't take long. Sugar cooks so quickly.
oh yes, you just have to watch it. You can't go off and leave it.
No, you can't. But this is such a quick and simple recipe.
Mm-hmm.
And once it's finished, you can take it off the heat, and we will add a tablespoon of vanilla. Now, if that's too much vanilla for you, you can certainly turn that down just a little bit. I don't really want it real sweet because the pudding is kind of sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And that, Martha, is a nice caramel. And
Let's turn it around so he can.
this will thicken as it
Oh,
cools and become quite thick.
Very nice.
So now that the caramel is finished, we can start on our third recipe, which is a drink, which is so nice and comforting to have during the holiday season, sitting by the fireplace. It's non-alcoholic, but if you do want to add some alcohol for a party, you can add rum to it, and it still turns out really
Okay.
well. All right, now we're going to start with the caramel apple cider, and you want to take a half a gallon of apple cider, any kind. Apple juice is a little sweet. The cider's got a few more spices in it, so it's better to use the cider if you have it. And you want about a half a gallon of cider. Then you're going to use about a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half. Now you can adjust these measurements on these liquids to suit your own taste. This is the way my family likes it. And this is cinnamon extract. You can get it at any grocery store. And you'll want a teaspoon of that. This is a little messy, so be careful. For some reason today, Martha, we're going to have red fingers.
We're going to have red fingers. There you go.
Then we're going to add about a half a cup of heavy cream again. So that's the third time we've used that cream today. And stir. And you want to heat this on low and do not bring it to a boil because you don't want that cream to curdle. And if by chance it should, it's not going to hurt anything. It's just going to change the texture of the cider a little bit. Then the caramel you made, or if you don't want to make caramel and just have the cider one evening, you can substitute a caramel ice cream topping, or you can make your own caramel or melt some other caramels, but they're kind of thick. You want to thin those out with a little more cream. But you'll want to take a little bit of this caramel that you made and add it right to the cider. And I used about 1/4 of a cup in this size pan, which again is about a 4-quart saucepan. And then you just stir and heat.
Once again, this just smells heavenly. Oh, that looks good.
And this is something that the kids all enjoy. For any holiday or any cool fall evening, it just is a great little touch. I served this at Bunko last fall, and it was a big hit.
Great.
Okay, It's ready, Martha. Would you like a little taste?
Yes. Oh my goodness.
And I think that I can smell that bread pudding
Oh,
cooking up over there.
I can go get it. Why don't I go get it real quick?
That'd be great. If you want to dress this cider up a little bit, you can serve it with some cinnamon sticks or some cloves, just for looks. It's one of those recipes that you'll just want to have on hand, the ingredients all the time.
Let me put it right here.
That'd be terrific.
Watch, it's kind of hot.
It is hot.
Okay.
Ooh, that spoon's even a little bit. And let's see, Martha, do we have a plate and a fork? And I'll let you sample this. And the way I like to serve it at home is just to spoon a little bit of caramel on the plate first.
Okay.
And then just scoop this out.
Oh, okay.
And then a little more caramel on top.
Okay, you turned it upside down.
I did, because the bottom part's a little softer, and that caramel will ooze into that. It's a little less porous than the top.
It's oozing. It looks good.
And then if you want, you can add more whipping cream or ice cream, whatever you prefer.
Wonderful. Okay, well, while I'm getting a taste of this, I'm going to have Sharon go over some of these ingredients again with you real quick.
All right. Okay, beginning with the bread pudding, you will need 2 tablespoons of butter for greasing the pan, 4 large eggs, 3 cups of whipping cream, 1 cup of cider, 1 cup of light brown sugar, 1/4 of a cup of white sugar, 2 tablespoons of melted butter, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of cinnamon, 6 cups of stale raisin bread, 1 Granny Smith apple chopped, 1 cup of chopped dried apples, and 1 cup of chopped pecans toasted.
And this is called the caramel,
The caramel apple bread pudding.
Oh, it is so good.
Thank you.
Yummy, yummy.
Then for the caramel sauce, which you can use for the bread pudding, you can use for ice cream. It will store in the refrigerator about 10 days. Or you can use it in the cider itself. And you just simply mix the 1/2 cup of butter with 1 cup of light brown sugar, and then add a 1/2 cup of whipping cream partway through, and a tablespoon of vanilla, which you can adjust for flavoring if that's too sweet for you. Then for the cider, you'll need a 1/2 gallon of apple cider, a teaspoon of cinnamon extract, 2 tablespoons of caramel, whether it be the caramel topping that you just made or purchased ice cream topping that's caramel, and a 1/2 cup of heavy whipping cream. And you just blend that together and heat on low.
Look at this. Oh, the texture, and oh, it just smells, and it smells so good, and it tastes wonderful. And I haven't tasted the cider yet.
And Martha, this pudding is a basic bread pudding. So if it's Christmas time and you want a little more red,
This is
you
so
can add
good.
some dried cherries, you can add cranberries, you can add pistachios. It's one of those recipes that you can just take and do all kinds of things with it to adjust it to however you and your family like.
Oh my. Well, Sharon, thank you so much. I'm just going to put this here out for a little display, and everybody can kind of see how wonderful that looks. Thank you so much for coming today.
Well, you're welcome. It was fun.
I am anxious to try this recipe myself, but let's have you back again sometime.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And this is Martha McCoy for the Chanute Channel.